I'm going to show you how to set a snare with a couple of things that you should normally be carrying. I generally have bungee cords. They're usually in my four-wheel drive. If you don't have a bungee cord, you might have a hand spear. I'm going to show you how to set a snare with a trigger with one of these instead of a nice big spring pole. So the first one I'm going to show you is the L7. It's literally any form of latch that you can hook up like this, okay? Now, I'd sometimes try to use the bottom half as already anchored in a tree. So I'll try to find a tree that's already got roots into the ground. And then my trigger, the other half will be on my spring line. I'll show you how. Okay, so I've found a bit of a branch at the moment. It's a little bit green, which is good. It's going to make it easy to carve. This will be one half of it. The second half, I'm going to try to find a wildlife corridor going under a tree through a choke hold, through a choke area, and I'm going to fashion the other half on a fixed piece of material. So I'm just going to get to work on that. So bear with us. So I'm just cutting this bit of branch here. I'm going to leave this section on here because that sometimes can become a good bait hook. Now you want to cut your timber very square and true, and then we'll get our bush knife out, clear off the bark, and show you how to carve the L7. As you can see, the timber is quite hard, even though it just came off a live tree moments ago. The outside bark is very, very hard. All right, it's not the straightest of stick, but you're going to envision a hook coming in through here and up, and my tether cord onto here. So I'm going to make another cut this way through to the center, and then I'm going to carve it out and chunk it out, and hopefully end up with a nice little reverse hook on here. So if I cut a slight backward angle, if I cut down on an angle this way, it'll give me a little bit more material to work with, and I can always take more off. Now if I come straight down from this point here down to that edge there, I should end up with a nice long hook. I'm carving along here. Not sure if the camera can see it. My first cut's quite deep, and then I shorten the cuts out, and then I should be able to just chunk them out like that. So now I've got an edge straight down to that lip, down to that hook. This will all come together once you see the end product. So it might not make enough sense right now. So there's the first part of my L7, and if I put tension on here and I pull up and I push down, it's quite linear, straight down. I'm going to carve a little loop around here so my cord has somewhere to purchase itself. You can use your saw if you don't carve into your finger. If you're not bleeding, are you really doing it? First half of my L7 here, and I'm going to go find the second half now, and I'll get back to you. I'm just scouting out a little area here. There's plenty of, there's a bird. You could imagine trying to shoot a rabbit with a bow right now in this area. There's plenty of small activity, plenty of small little dung mounds, nothing substantial. See, there's little dung mounds around and little diggings. They're all old, but this is to demonstrate the video, the technique involved. I'm going to go and find a little spot that would simulate what we're trying to achieve. Just another point to note, if I'm having trouble finding the ideal position to demonstrate this technique just to make a video, imagine trying to use this technique to actually hunt and trap a rabbit or a bit of small game. It's not exactly easy, it takes practice. So just something to keep in mind. What you see on YouTube and in these other videos, it's after a lot of cuts and a lot of takes and a lot of editing and a lot of trial and error, and they only put the videos out that are successful. And those that put videos out without trapping anything to begin with, like this video itself, is just to show you the concept. To actually actively go out and trap something as well and capture that on video is another target altogether. So it's something we're going to all try to achieve. So I'm just trying to demonstrate the technique involved. Okay, so this branch here, there's a tree up here and a thoroughfare through here. So this is where I'm going to set this snare up, attempt to. This trigger realistically will work better in one direction than the other, the direction that it pulls it away, as opposed to the direction pushing it in. This idea here, sometimes you use that to put bait on. So when they pull on the bait, it pulls the stick out. I just leave them on there till I decide what I really want to do with it, because there's another snare you can use that for. I'll demonstrate that next. However, I'm going to get to work with trying to get a hook, a square hook onto a round peg. Easier said than done. Okay, so I've got a roller hoochie cord, I've got my L7, I've got a bungee cord. Okay, so first off, I'm going to start off with putting a clove hitch just around here. A couple of different ways to do a clove hitch. If you're learning first time, maybe make a loop, then make a second loop and put behind the first loop and line up all the holes, put it around your thumb like that, pinch it off, then stick it through where your thumb was and pull tight. I don't know, maybe that's a decent way to remember it. So 2 loops, put 1 loop behind the other. All right, now that's because it's got a notch to hold in, it's going to pull into it. Plus I've put the high side of the knot on the opposite side of the L7. So then when you pull up, it pulls in slightly. So if you were to draw a line from that knot to the bottom of that L7, it'd be straight. Now, come over to here, your anchor point, you pull up, all right? Now, if I was to tie that off there, that'd be fine. There's no springiness to it. This is where I'd pull the tree branch down and I'd hang into it, but we don't have a tree branch. We're not gonna do that. So I'll use my bungee cord and I'll hook it onto here. Now, I've done this a few times. Every time it trips off, it flings off into the sky and you look like an idiot. So sometimes it pays just to tie that on, but I'm not gonna cut my hoochie cord just yet. This is where that clove hitch once again comes in handy, but you may learn another way to tie it. I may have to adjust my hook point because it is quite sensitive. Might be able to change where my bungee cord is, bring it out that way to bring my stick in closer to the anchor point, or I might just have to start carving again. I'm gonna hook it on here, and I come back up to my bungee or oki strap. I might have to get to work on carving it again. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it a little trim up, get a bit of a backwards kick on it. Another thing I've come to realize, you don't need a heap of springiness in your snare for it to trip. You don't have to pull down on it like your life depends on it. Just need enough that it does trip. We'll get the right length in a minute. That might be the trick. So once again, little clove hitch, put it over here and pull it down. Now, it doesn't look like a lot, but it's enough. We can trim that locking tab up a little bit more, but for the purpose of the demonstration. So now, I'm going to bring the camera down a little further. I'm going to rely on the GoPro to capture a fair bit of this. I will now cut this. There's my L7, I'll pull it down, lock it in. Once again, I'm going to use hoochie cord for the snare itself. However, fencing wire, snare wire, this technique can be used on fishing gear as well. So you're just going to make a loop, and once again, if you practice that clove hitch. Now you can do a couple of things here. I can utilize my loop here. At the end of the day, you want your snare set that's going to cause something to grab hold of it. Let's walk you through this. I've got my L7 that's hooked onto here with that much lift. All right, that much lift. If it gets sprung, I've got this stick still here in case you want to put bait on it. There's a technique where you put a little bit of bait on it and you put the foot snare here. Okay, animal comes in, grabs the bait, it lifts up under into their shoulder, into their leg, and they panic and run, and they get all tangled up. Right, so then I've got my bungee cord all the way up to the tree there. So because I can't bend any of this none of this material is flexible, it's just going to snap. Okay, so I've got a bungee cord. As I've said before, this could be a jelly rubber for your hand spear or your spear gun. It could also be an inner tube that you've cut into rubber bands. Anything, it could be elastic out of your pants. It just needs enough spring action in it. So I got the L7 here. I've got this stick here in case you want to put some bait on it. If you put bait on it and you put the foot snare here, okay, the foot goes down as they go to eat, yum, 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 and it lifts up into their shoulder and they panic and run, and sets the snare off. Now, we are not going to use this to hold the animal in place, clearly, and this is only just to set it off. Anything that's just going to cause enough lift, enough explosive force quicker than what that animal will react, so the snare will get into a position where the animal can't negotiate it and get out of it. That's all it is. It's not there to choke the animal instantly. It's just to lift that snare up into a position where the animal doesn't know what's happened and they run, that get them caught up. from this point onwards, you could put a snare here and tie it off onto here and tie it off onto this tree. You could loop the snare this way and have it as a neck hole. Okay, so if the animal comes through this way and it grabs hold, it's going to run this way, it's going to snare it up. It just gives it that extra oomph, that extra bite. If you just rely on the snare itself and the noose to pull tight with the animal movement alone, it may back, it may get out of it. But if you've got that little bit of explosive force where this L7 goes like that, the animal doesn't have time to react to what that is, and it's got no idea what it is, and then it's going to do itself a mischief. So we'll run with that for now. Okay, so I'm just going to get a piece of this here, okay, and I'm going to do a noose this way, a snare that way. So you get your rope, you get your clove hitch like we've done before a couple of times now. Look, if there's one thing you know here, go practice your clove hitch, okay? Go practice it. If you want a tutorial on how to do the clove hitch, I'll do that. There's a couple of different ways to tie it, and you can build on it too. So the clove hitch, you put 3 or 4 loops one side of it, it'll slide one way, it won't slide the other. You can use it into like similar to a Prossic knot. Anyway, so here's my little noose. I'm gonna make it big, okay? This may not hold an animal, okay? We're talking kangaroos and goats and things like that. This will break, okay? But a rabbit, small animal like that, possibly not. So if I just loop it over here, hook it onto that little bit of bark there, hook it onto that little bit of stick there, whatever you can sort of tie it up into, shove it under a bit of bark, okay? Let it dangle, twist the rope the right way so all the loops are out of it. This point here, I can choke off along here anywhere. But it's important that you cut yourself enough length that you can tether it to a fixed item that's not going to get pulled out too easy. So I've got myself a meter and a bit here. Once again, if you've learned anything, learn the clove hitch. I'm going to try to, yeah, I'll put it here. So if I don't want this rope to slide down here, I'll do 2 or 3 loops. And this is very dangerous. Well, not really, but right now my L7's set. So I'm going to do 3 or 4 loops this way before I cross back up into my other. Now, I'll go up and across. So it's exactly like the clove hitch we did earlier. However, I've got 3 or 4 loops on the downward side. That's going to prevent my rope from wanting to slide down too easily on that angle, but I can slide it up, piece of cake there to set the height. Now, I'll get my other line. This is all a little confusing now, isn't it? I'll get my other line and I'll hang that over there, because that's my anchor point. That's what's going to stop the critter from running away on me. So I shove my noose back in there, a little bit off the ground. Okay, so I'm not sure yet, my GoPro's still filming. Coming through here, okay, the leg grabs hold of it. Now, I've got to anchor this. Now I'm going to leave this loose, but I'm going to anchor it somewhere quite solid. Let's pretend this is quite solid. Now, if the critter comes running through and he grabs the noose and he pulls on it, it explosively pulls up into the shoulder. Now that animal's bloody panicking, and he's getting himself tied up. It doesn't give the critter enough time to react to what was that on my foot, I'm backing out of here. It was on his foot, now it's around his shoulder. That's what you sort of want. This can be replicated many different ways. It's the concept, it's the trigger mechanism that you're trying to learn. It's not the way I've applied it. You can apply it however you want. As I said before, you can use this in fishing, set lines. You can use this a number of ways. However, today is demonstrating how to use an L7. Basically, the purpose of this video is to show you how you can use something like a bungee cord and something as primitive as an L7 to possibly set yourself a snare. Get in the comment section, grill me as to tell me how I'm wrong. I'd always like to say there is no wrong or right answer to this sort of thing. It's just the concept, okay? So no one can be wrong. People can be more right. This is a demonstration of an L7 with a fixed anchor point that you haven't had to put in yourself. The benefits of that is it's solid, it's part of the terrain, it's not going to pull out, it's part of an active tree, as opposed to making the opposite end of the L7 and pounding into the ground. This concept here, this idea here, is taking away half the amount of work required. If you made it this far in the video and you agree with what I've said, leave a comment below. If you've never thought of this idea before, leave a comment below. Conversation's great, okay? We all learn from conversation. So if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, share amongst your friends, all the good stuff, because at the end of the day, I want to try to make more of this content. L7, bungee cord, hoochie cord. In Australia, traps can't be set and unmanned, so this is something that you set, you don't forget, you monitor from a distance.